available and what these particular software things do.
To give you just a brief exposure to some of the add-ins that have been created using the Revit API and what they can do to increase the functionality of Revit, I'm going to show you just a few things that have been done. Here's the installer, which will go ahead and make all of the INI setting changes, add any DLL files, and we've also made it change the splash screen to our own company logo as Revit starts up. I also noticed when you're in Revit that there's a new tab called Add-ins, which will have various icons for the tools that have been created. Some of them are as simple as opening the project folder so you can quickly get to those folders and files that you've stored near the central model. Other ones make changes to the entire model, such as the workset merge, which will change all of the elements to be on the same workset so you can send it out to clients or consultants for better collaborating. Then there's also the renumber mark values, which will sequentially number the mark values of all the elements in the project to get rid of those warnings that you may be familiar with that say that you have duplicate mark values. And then there's the parameter transformer, which will allow you to change parameters in multiple families at the same time, even if they don't have the same unique ID for the parameter. For example, if we want to change the emergency shading on light fixtures to be all on or all off, we can do that all at one time for the multiple families. Or if we want to sequentially number all of the light fixture types, starting with a particular letter such as F, and have it number each type sequentially from 1 to whatever, we can set that up and have it do the entire project all at one time. Or if we want to change values on a schedule where we're repeatedly putting in the same value for multiple types, we can have the parameter transformer go ahead and set all the types at once, so you don't have to do the click, paste, and wait that would be required otherwise by changing the schedule. And there's also the power suite, which will allow you to track mechanical changes that will affect electrical, enabling you to have a more coordinated model. It can also automatically calculate additional parameters such as disconnect types and size to help in the design. You can locate elements easily using the element ID or the 3D location and other parameters that are shown here in an easy to read format. You can also export your mechanical equipment schedule with more fields and more information than you would be able to do in Revit. And then you can see the electrical system, how the electrical system is connected. You can also see the panel schedules and then set information specific to the panel or the individual breakers that can be shown up on the panel schedule that also is calculated correctly using correct demand factors and adjustment factors that Revit doesn't currently allow you to do. And then you can export that to a DXF that can be linked directly into the Revit model, and so that you have a Revit model that has the linked panel schedules that are calculated correctly and also linked to the data through the power suite that is in your Revit model. And then you can also draw a one-line diagram using the building level information, the equipment size information, feeder information. All that can be included on the diagram that is automatically generated from the power suite. And then another tool that's included in there is converting Excel to DXF for those schedules or calculations that aren't easily replicated inside Revit. We can convert directly from Excel into a DXF that can be linked into Revit and updated as necessary. And those are examples of just a few of the tools that have been implemented, and there are many more that could be implemented that will help you make Revit work better for you as a tool.
Alright, so obviously those are MEP-based examples, and you're not going to go back to your place and want to copy those. But what I'm hoping is that it kind of gets those cogs turning where you're starting to think like, wow, you know, here are some things that are available. Here are some of the things that I could do in my company to automate things or to make things a little bit, you know, faster for the users. Now, along those same lines, I've included in here some ideas for further development. Here are just some ideas for you to look through, just to continue, you know, keeping those wheels turning and thinking about, oh, maybe, you know, our guys spend hours trying to get the sets printed right, or in the right order, or with the right setting, or, you know, this and that. Here are just some things that are possible in the API that you'd be able to manipulate and do. Or if it's not you, you can also give it to, say, you know, somebody in your company that's a little bit more versed with either Revit or with programming. But definitely some things to look at, you know, for ideas for furthering your own company standards. And then this is just kind of briefly, if you are interested in getting started, here's kind of the basics of things to know on your path to getting started. Revit allows you to program 3 different types of programs. There's a macro, an external command, and an external application. Now, a macro is not the same as in Excel or something else where it's a recorded set of clicks and events. It actually is programming language, but it's something that's stored inside Revit. You can either store it with the project or with the computer. And it's something that's started in Revit, and then it completes its task, and then it's done. An external command is basically the same thing, where it's started in Revit, completes a specific task, and then it's done, but it's actually stored externally in a DLL file that would be compiled. The external application is something that is started when Revit starts and doesn't finish until Revit finishes. It's loaded and unloaded with Revit. An example of the external application is the toolbar that you see in there. The ribbon bar that has the buttons and that kind of stuff. That's actually an external application, meaning that it starts up when Revit starts. It's in there running the entire time. It's persistent until you close Revit. It's unloaded with Revit. And an external command, when you click on any one of those buttons, you can tell it to access another DLL or to start a command, which is going to eventually terminate before Revit terminates, and it's going to be done. So that's how the applications and commands kind of work together. As far as writing your software, if you want to write it, Revit actually comes with the STA, which is Visual Studio Tools for Applications. It comes with Revit, where it gives you the environment where you can actually start typing the code and trying it out and testing to see what it's going to do in your Revit project. And then Visual Studio is Microsoft's tool. There's actually a free version of Visual Studio called Visual Studio Express. If you want to get into programming add-ins for Revit, I would highly recommend getting Visual Studio Express. That's the only way that you're going to be able to do any external things, external commands or external applications. You'll be able to compile to a DLL or to an EXE. Revit accepts 2 different programming languages. There's C# and VB.NET. Now those 2 languages are virtually identical, so there's not really an advantage of choosing one over the other, but they do have completely different syntax that is completely translatable, so you can translate from one to another if you get an example in one or the other. But those who are in the programming industry are very familiar with C++, which is used to do large-scale applications, including Revit was programmed in C++. So the syntax is very familiar to them, so they kind of fall into C#. VB.NET, if you're used to doing any type of VBA, Visual Basic for applications, that's included in Word, Excel, Access, those kind of things, you kind of fall into the VB.NET because the syntax is very similar there. But the functionality is the same. And then one thing to be aware of is the software development kit is available from Autodesk. Basically, all it is a big collection of examples. They give you a ton of examples, and there's more than 100 examples, and they give you the sample code. Here's the code, and you can, this is a great place to start because you can load those into your Revit project, and I just want to see if I can make this sample work. You click on the sample, you see how it works, and then you go back in there and you say, oh, what if I change this line to this line? What if I make this modification? I want it to do something slightly different. You start playing around with it and see how it affects the program. That's a great place to start. And also in that software development kit, there is an instruction manual. So it'll tell you how to get started. It'll tell you where to place things, how to put them and make them work in Revit. So if you're getting started, check out the instruction manual as well. But basically, the 2 steps are this. You write your program, and you compile it, or you don't even have to compile it if you're using the STA. And then you just need to tell Revit about your program. And that's done in the Revit INI. There's a list. You basically tell it where to find your DLL. And that's taken care of in the Revit INI. And then you can just start playing with it. Obviously, there's a huge amount to know with regards to the API. If that's something you're interested in, definitely make a comment that you'd like to see further classes on the API. We've actually been selected by Autodesk to teach a class on their API at Autodesk University this year. But if it's something you're interested in, definitely write it down in the comments. But also, if you do get into it and you get stuck, go ahead and give us a call. We're here to, if you want to call us, and even if it's as simple like, I've got this great idea, I want Revit to read my mind and start drawing. We have, go to the beach. Go to the beach. So we have the ability to say, well, here's some of the limitations of the API. This is what you can do. These are the things it doesn't give you access to, and we can tell you right off the bat if what you're thinking about can be done or can't be done. or we can at least give you an idea of where to look.
But this is more of an advanced, it's not a beginner's thing.
No, this is an advanced. This is for those who are just really interested in automating things, but definitely, I mean, huge time savers. We have tasks that used to take engineers 6 hours to do. Now they can click a button, wait less than a minute, and it's done. Yeah, and then they can charge 6 hours, and just kidding. But no, definitely it's huge and it's powerful, and there's a huge interest in it, but it's not for everyone. So that's why I'm not going to bore everybody with the ins and outs, but if it's something that you'd like to know more about, definitely contact us. And then just as a conclusion, these are the things I want to make sure that you kind of took away from this. You need to know that, Revit right out of the box is going to take some time to get working for your company, especially because a lot of the standards are company specific. The content is company specific. So it's going to be a process that your team needs to come up with a plan from the beginning, make sure there's a plan in place to tackle Revit. And then, just like the shared parameters file, this next point, get your team headed in the right direction from the start. If you're in the right direction from the start, you're going to save so much time that might have to go back in backtracking and correcting things that were done in a different way. And then learn from the experience of others. Don't hesitate to ask for help from your resources. Most people that are working in Revit, like talking about Revit, they like sharing their experiences, their knowledge, whether it's us or Autodesk or online forums. Definitely look for resources, ask for help. You're going to save so much time as you do that. And then as a final note, choosing the right team can make all the difference. This quote is from the architect of the two buildings that you see on the first slide. After we turned in the project, this is a quote that he wrote in a letter to my boss, so of course it made me happy. Their dedication and experience with the building information modeling software Revit has helped make the transition from a 2D drafting workflow to a 3D collaborative workflow much easier. They met every obstacle with a positive attitude, and in many cases went above and beyond what was expected of them.